So I'm actually using this camera kind of how it's supposed to be used by like streaming it onto my phone so I can actually like see what the hell is happening because I've set the camera pretty far back. But this is a summary of Assassin's Blade. Now, if you didn't know, Assassin's Blade is like it's like one book, but in there's four novellas, and they're all prequel novellas to what happens in Throne of Glass and all of that. However, I chose not to read it in that order, and I think I've read it in the order that it was released. So I've read it fourth. So I've read it after Throne of Glass, after Queen of Shadows, after Heir of Fire, but before. No, hold on. I think Queen of Shadows is the one I'm reading now. Crown of Midnight. Yes, sorry. Scrap that. Scrap everything I've just said. I read it after Throne of Glass, after Crown of Midnight, after Heir of Fire, then Assassin's Blade, and now I'm reading Queen of Shadows. So you kind of need to read Assassin's Blade before Queen of Shadows, is what I heard on the TikToks, you know? So that's what I did. But essentially, it's just real short stories. They all kind of link. They are chronological, I think. Actually, no, they're not. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, but let's just get into it. So, first of all, I just wanted to say, I don't know why I'm shouting. First of all, First of all, I just wanted to say that I thought when I was reading the first three books in the series, Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, like, oh, I kind of know what's happened in the prequel now, like, what's even the point? Because they do talk about it, but they talk about it more in Queen of Shadows, which is why I would suggest reading it, because I also think that with Assassin's Blade, had I read it first, I don't think I would be that interested, because I feel like the first three books really built up the character, so I understood why certain things were happening and why certain people were the way they were, and I wouldn't have felt that if I had just gone in straight to the prequel, and I probably would never even have made it into Throne of Glass, especially because it is quite daunting. And I think I've mentioned this before, it took me 3 attempts to even finish Throne of Glass, and I'm not a DNFer. Just saying. But let's start off with the first novella within Assassin's Blade, which is The Assassin and the Pirate Lord. So that, like I said, they're all split into small stories. Now, here's where my assumption was incorrect, because based on the previous books that I'd read in the series, I was all under the impression that her and Sam, so it's Selena and Sam, or whatever her name is, Selena and Sam were like close, right? No, they hate each other. Anyway, so we start at Assassin's Keep. So that's where A. Robin Hamill keeps his most important people, and 6 of his most important assassins are gathered in the middle of the night because one of the assassins has been caught and he's been killed. I think he was the second in command and his name was Ben, and he was caught and killed. So Selena and Sam fight because they need to try and decide about what's going to happen and whether they're going to retrieve the body or not. And Selena's like, we're going to retrieve the body, and Sam's like, it's stupid, and she's like, well, I'll remember that if you ever die, because then I'll just leave you to rot. Anyway, so like I said, very first moment we realize they're actually haters, like they hate each other, they're enemies, but not really. And the reason they're enemies is kind of because Sam wanted to be on top, but Selena is like A. Robin's special person, and he like has got a very vested interest in her, and she's basically the heir to his empire. Anyway, so 2 months later, Selena and Sam go to Skull Bay, and it's there that they're going to deliver a letter to a pirate lord called Captain Rolfe, and then they find out that the reason A. Robin has actually sent them there is for the slave trade, and that they're going to bring back hundreds of slaves to Rifthold. And so Selena is like, ew, like how could he even do that? And so she basically starts going like, oh, I'm gonna plan the escape of these assassins, of these slaves, because I'm not gonna allow this to happen. So she basically plays along with Rolf and tells them that she wants to like inspect them and make sure that they're all like okay and stuff like that. But Selena gets angry when she sees the slaves and how Sam reacts, and she's like, this is disgusting, but then he's like, okay, I'll help you. So the next day, they're going to ship off their slaves at night. So they row towards these ships to free the slaves, and then they unlock them and tell them that they need to flee. And at sunrise, Selena and Sam will cause a distraction so that they could like cross the border and get out of the ports and whatever. So then Selena and Sam go to the biggest bar and they fake buying like booze and stuff and giving it out to all the pirates. And then Selena basically forces a fight to start, so there'll be a brawl as a distraction. But then they slip out to destroy the chain. However, Captain Rolfe has been on to them the whole time, and he's like, "Hun, I saw you trip that guy up." And then she... Oh, I completely forgot to mention, obviously Selena is supposed to... No one's supposed to know that she's like this like 18-year-old girl is like Ardalan's most dangerous assassin. So she's always wearing this mask, and so there's been a whole back and forth this whole time, like, oh, like, show me your face, like, la la la, but she has to keep this mask on. And Sam is obviously the only one at that time in Skulls Bay who actually knows who she is. Anyway, so Selena distracts him at that point, Captain Rolfe that is, by showing the face, and he's like, oh, you're like an 18-year-old girl. And then this gives Sam enough time to flee to the tower with the chain. And then Selena fights Rolfe, Sam fixes the chain, and they all live happily ever after, or so we think. Next novella, The Assassin and the Healer. So in this short novella, and I feel like these will be important in the future, which is why they're all in here, but we meet this barmaid from this small port town that's a hellhole called Yerin Towers, and she used to be a healer from Fenrir, but her mother was killed when the magic was banished 8 years ago. And ever since then, Yerin has wanted to go and study healing, but she doesn't have any money, so that's why she's doing all this barmaidy stuff. Selena is passing through because she's going to the Red Desert as a punishment for ruining A. Robin's plans with the whole, you know, like, I need slaves business or slave trade, whatever he was going to do. And she's there, and basically in this little town of, like, this little random town where the healer is a barmaid, everyone's like trying to rob each other and stuff like that, so people are onto her. But then at the end of the night, when Yerin is like trying to like clean everything up, Yerin is trapped by some like robbers basically, and Selena arrives to kill them and chase them off, and she also teaches Yerin some self-defense at that time. And then more people come, and Selena lets Yerin put into practice what she just showed her. Amazingly, Yerin now knows how to defeat people after about 5 minutes of training. I wish I had that ability, but it is what it is. And then in the next morning, Selena's boat arrives and she leaves most of her money for Yerin, and then she goes. So now Yerin has enough money basically to not be a barmaid anymore, and then she can go and do her healing stuff, is basically the point of that story. Now we're on to the next novella, which is called The Assassin and the Desert. So this is one of my favourite ones, to be honest, so just saying. Selena arrives in the Red Desert because A. Robin has sent her as a punishment. So as a punishment, he beat her up. Horrible, in front of Sam. Okay, this is going to be important point. And so now she has to go and train with the silent assassins for a month, and she needs to receive the mute master's approval before she can come back to Rifthold. So when she gets there in the middle of the desert, in the peak of heat, of course, she has to fight off some assassins as a test, and then she's allowed to train with them. During her stay, she is roomed with this person called Ansel. She's one of the other female assassins who are training there. A girl from Briarcliff in the Western Wastes, whose father sent her there to train, but we find out much later that actually her family was butchered and she went there and she's just trying to like get as much training as she can so she can get revenge for her family. Anyway, she also meets Mikhail, Ansel's boyfriend, and Elias, who is the mute master's son, and she finds out that there's this guy called Lord Barrick who rules the city of Xandra, and he's trying to take over the Red Desert, but he keeps failing because of the assassins. Anyway, so she's training with the assassins, and one of the training exercises is to run for 6 miles across the desert with 2 buckets of water on your shoulder. Normally you might die doing this, but of course Selena's gonna make it because she's a queen. But she's annoyed that the mute master's not training her, because that's the only way she's ever gonna be able to leave and go back to Rifthold. Anyway, whatever. So that's what's happening with them. He tells her to have patience. She doesn't really have any. Lord Beric then tries to attack the fortress, and Selena helps the assassins beat him and his little army. And the next day, Ansel is sent to Xandria to talk to Beric, and she gets Selena to come along. Ansel tells Selena about the Iron Teeth Witches, which we heard more of in Heir of Fire, but are bigger and more important role in Queen of Shadows. Where am I? The Iron Teeth? Oh yeah, she tells them the Iron Teeth Witches, who overthrew the Cochrane Witches, have terrorized the Western Wastes. They then arrive in Xandria, and Ansel goes off to talk to Beric. Selena wanders around, and she's like looking at all these merchants, and then there's Spider Silk, and she's like, oh, the merchant basically tells her that he's been trading for 20 years, but he can only get back if a particular spider is killed. Karina. She's not Karina. Karina says that one day she might do that. And then he gives her this like small 6-inch square of spider silk as a reminder, and that everything has a price. Anyway, where am I? I keep losing track of where the hell I'm reading. I'm also not sitting up very straight, so sorry for my absolutely atrocious posture. Anyway, she meets up with Ansel, who is like hurrying to get out of the city, but she doesn't want to walk. She wants to steal one of Beric's horses, which are these like Fey horses called Astarian horses. And so they do, and they fly out of the city, but obviously the guards are chasing them, but nobody can catch up with these horses, and they make it. When they arrive back to the fortress, the Mute Master is obviously angry with them, but he calms down when Selena is the one who takes the blame, even though the Mute Master knows that it's actually Ansel's fault. By the way, Ansel has never been trained by the Mute Master, even though she's been there for many years. Might be important for later. And then they get stable duty as punishment. But at this point, the Mute Master also decides he is going to train Selena. So whatever. In these training sessions, he teaches her how to kind of move like animals and helps her with movement. Then there's a Midsummer Eve festival. Elias he's the son of the Mute Master, by the way. He's kind of obsessed with Selena, and they almost kiss, but she's like, nah, because she kind of sort of, we get hints at this point, has feelings for Sam. Anyway, and then the next morning, Ansel says that the other assassins basically slut shame her, and she's angry, and then they get into a fight. Selena tells the Mute Master about A. Robin's punishment, and the Mute Master is like, it's alright, even though the Mute Master doesn't talk, hence his name. Ansel then pretends to apologise to Selena, but instead she drugs her and leaves her in the desert with instructions to leave, but Selena's like, no, I need to go back. Then she finds out that Lord Beric's men have actually attacked the fortress and killed many of the assassins, including Mikhail. We actually find out that Mikhail was actually killed by Ansel, his own girlfriend. That was sad. My mouth fell open. I was like, this girl has no chill. Her family's already dead. Does she not want anyone to be close to her? Anyway, and they almost kill Elias too. The Mute Master isn't dead yet, and Selena finds out that Ansel actually betrayed them all because he promised that he would take an army back to Briarcliff for her. I was really sad because I thought Selena really needs a girly best friend because all these girly best friends keep dying. But I don't know why Sarah J. Maas is introducing girly best friends and then killing off the girly best friends. She needs to stop doing that. Please, because it really is hurting my heart. Anyway, Selena beats Ansel, obviously, and then she saves everyone. She tells Ansel that she will kill her if she isn't gone in 20 minutes. And she actually doesn't shoot her arrow until after 21 minutes. How lovely of her. The Mute Master then gives her money to pay off her debts to A. Robin because he's great, and tells her to go back home and to have her freedom. By the way, at this point, the Mute Master does talk. He's like, I'm not actually mute. People just think I am because I don't like to waste my words on people. And I was like, hun, what an absolute slay. Okay, and then the next novella, maybe there's 5 novellas in there, is The Assassin and the Underworld. So Selena arrives back to Rifthold and A. Robin welcomes her back, and he's like always giving her gifts, like that's her love language or his love language, I don't really know. And he basically says, I'm sorry for beating you up and sending you, by the way, physically, like brutally, like she was mad, and sending you off. What a toxic relationship. We love that for her. Anyway, he then gives her a new mission, which is to kill Benzo Donneville from Melisande, who apparently came to Rifthold because he was trying to build a road between Ardalan and Melisande to do the trading, and as a result giving a list of slave safe houses and traitors to the crown. The order came from Leifa Berdingale, which is the guy's ex-wife, and Donneville is supposed to have a trade agreement in a few days, and she has to kill them then. Donneville and the man that they're trading with. Selena then runs into Sam, and they have this like awkward moment because when A. Robin beat them up, Sam basically threatened A. Robin for hurting her because he's in love. So basically his loyalties have essentially switched, if you didn't clock that. Then it turns out that Sam is being forced to hand out with Lysandra, who's another one of A. Robin's proteges, but of the courtesan variety. Essentially, when they were younger, Selena and Lysandra are of similar ages, but Selena was kept in the Assassin's Keep to train as an assassin, and Lysandra was sent to Madame Clarice, and she was being taught to be a courtesan. Okay, so, but Selena hates Lysandra and her madam, so that's great. And Lysandra's gonna have her bidding soon, because I think like when you turn 18 or whatever, that's when they're basically selling her virginity, if anybody didn't clock on. And then Selena goes to get pretty after 3 months of traveling in the desert, and she looks terrible and she was beat up and la la la. And then A. Robin gets her a new special suit that's got all these like blades and stuff in it, and then she gives the master tinker a piece of spider silk to put in the suits, but she doesn't actually give it for her own suit, she's giving it for Sam's, which is cute. By the way, if you didn't realise, spider silk is like really strong and impenetrable, and she's asked for a square to be put over the heart. Stop it, I'm not smiling, you are. Anyway, and then Selena goes to the theatre to check out Donneville with A. Robin, Sam and Lysandra in tow, and also we find out this is where she loves music. After that night, she tries to play the same music, but she's finding it really hard, and then she asks Sam to help her with her next mission. They go and spy on Donneville and his bodyguard. Nothing really happens, but they follow the bodyguard. Again, nothing important. Then Sam gives Selena the sheet music that has not yet been released. Wow. Because she's obsessed with it, and that's so sweet because he actually knows her. Anyway, this goes to show the difference between A. Robin's obsession with Selena, and you'll get more information on that soon, and Sam's genuine love for her, because A. Robin's just like giving her like jewels and stuff like that and hoping to win her affection, whereas Sam is being thoughtful and giving them sheet music. Anyway, A. Robin and Selena are invited to Leifa Bardingale's party, and he introduces Selena as his niece Diane. Very important, because no one's supposed to know that she's the assassin. And then she goes to talk to Donneville with the excuse of being a wealthy merchant's niece, and learns the time of his meeting by playing a little trick. And then her and Sam dance, and she also dances with Dorian Hallivard for a bit. But she doesn't actually know it's him because he's got the mask on. So you don't really know that until afterwards. Anyway, then Selena goes off to the apartment that she bought ages ago, because she's bought this apartment for when she's actually free from A. Robin, because at this point she hasn't used the money that the Mute Master has given her to free herself yet from A. Robin. But she's already bought this warehouse in the slums. The next day, Selena talks to Sam about their mission and their plan to break into the Donneville house, but Sam, as his punishment, has to help Lysandra with like pre-bidding prep, and so she has to go by herself. She does manage to break into the study, but apparently Donneville does his business stuff in, but she gets knocked out. She wakes up in the sewer below the house, and that's where Donneville's bodyguard Philip is, and he's tied her to a chair. He plans to leave her there until it floods, but obviously Selena is smart and she manages to break free. She can't really get out though, because the grate that opens to the street level won't open. Luckily for her, Sam comes to help because he went out looking for her, and then he frees her from almost drowning. She then tells Sam everything that happened in the Red Desert and convinces her, him that she's going to pay off their debts and all of that. A. Robin is sad, but he gets super angry, whatever, and then she doesn't actually tell him that she's moving out. Sam and Selena have this moment where she basically tells him that she's paid A. Robin and that he might have to move too because he doesn't have any reason to stay. And then he says he's in love with her for ages, but he knew that she would always choose a Robin. And then Selena tells him, no, you idiot, I would choose you. So miscommunication at the thing, and then they kiss, obviously, in the sewers. So great for them. After that moment, we go back to Donneville's house, break in through the sewers. Selena slips into the study, steals the documents, and then kills Donneville and his bodyguard Philip and Donneville's companion. But he kills himself before she can get to him. Nobody knows why. Someone tries to shoot Sam, but obviously the spider silk saves him. We love that. Selena gives the documents to A. Robin, but then we actually find out that Donneville was the good guy and that Leifer was the one who wanted to do the slave trade. Selena gets angry and she tells him that she sold her Astorian horse to Leifer and uses that money to pay off Sam's debt. And then she tells him that I'm moving out. Then A. Robin, to be petty too, tells her that he's used all of the money that she gave him to free herself to buy Lysandra in the bidding, because he's perverted because he's much older than them. Anyway, whatever. That's the end of that novella. Next one, The Assassin and the Empire. This one's pretty bad also. So it starts with Selena in a prison wagon and then it goes back to 8 days earlier. So Selena and Sam have moved out and Selena goes off to listen to the concert from the roof this time because she can't sit in the box, but in the box she can see A. Robin and Lysandra, etc. Sam goes off to fight in the vaults because that's how he's earning money, by fighting in these illegal fights in the city's underworld. Selena yells at Sam because it's dangerous and then he says, let's leave Rifthold. And she's like, maybe, but we need money if we want to do that and we need to get jobs. But obviously nobody's giving them assassin job because she's left. They need to leave the Assassin's Guild to get jobs, basically. They kiss. I just feel like they have to tell you that. Anyway, the next day they go and ask A. Robin if they can leave the Assassin's Guild. And he says yes, if they pay an obscene amount of money, which is also, coincidentally, probably not coincidentally, the exact amount of money that Selena has in her bank account. Love that for her. Anyway, Sam and Selena fight. And whatever, Sam goes off feeling angry, but when he comes back, he tells Selena that he's found them a client able to leave. Except he doesn't know who the client is. Oh, my mic is disconnected. Why? I also don't know how long it's been disconnected for, so that's a bit sad. But anyway, hopefully it's still recording. Anyway, he doesn't know who it is because the client wore a mask. Very suspicious, but apparently he didn't think so. And the person wants them to kill Iron Jane, who is the biggest crime lord in Rifthold, and his second in command, Rourke Farron. And Selena is like, that's mad, we should not do that. Anyway, they get very close to some sexual things, but they don't do it. And then she eventually agrees to go on the mission because they do need the money. They're checking out Jane's house and they follow Farron for a while. And they decide they need to take out Farron first. But Sam wants to do it because he also wants to protect Selena. And then Selena will take out Jane. When Selena gets back home, A. Robin is sitting on her sofa because stalker mode. And he's creepy. And he tells her that she's an idiot if she thinks that she's going to be able to take out Jane and Farron, because obviously he already knows everything. And he also tells her that she should tell Sam who she really is and where she came from. Now, if you've read Hair of Fire, you already know. If you haven't, I won't say here, but just know it's shocking. Anyway, Selena and Sam go out for dinner, and then Sam tells her that he's afraid, and whatever he does, he tells himself that my name is Sam Cortland, I'm not going to be afraid, etc., etc. And then they follow Farron around for a bit and see that he's torturing people because he's actually the worst kind of person. And then Sam prepares to go out, and they're to go out killing. And Sam tells her that A. Robin visited him and told him to ask about her heritage. And now A. Robin's there. In Punjabi, we say fearing the god she, it means really like meddling. And he's like, I don't really care where you came from. You can tell me when you're ready. But obviously that never happens because of what's about to happen. And then Sam also tells her that she... Anyway, Selena's at home waiting. Oh my God, it's disconnected. Sack it off. I just hope you can hear. Selena is at home waiting, but Sam's not showing up. She's like, what the hell? So she's getting worried, so she's going after. And then A. Robin, of all people, comes to her house and tells her that Sam has died. So she goes to A. Robin at the keep to see the body, and he is actually dead, and it's really horrible. Then Selena wakes up in her room at the keep, and A. Robin and some random assassins are outside her door talking about revenge, but Selena is not allowed to go with them, except obviously they wouldn't do it outside the door if they didn't want her to hear. Stupid. She breaks out the room, goes to Jane's house, and although A. Robin's bodyguard Wesley, who Sheba hates by the way, tries to stop her because he actually knows it's a trap, she won't listen, and she breaks into the house, kills Jane immediately, and also everybody else in the house, and then whatever, and then Farron drugs her with Glorilla Mist, which is like a paralyzing thing. He wants to kill her, but according to his deal with his contact person, actually A. Robin, the little snake, he has to hand her over to the king. Selena is terrified because the king is also the worst person ever, as you will have known if you've read even the first book. She gets locked up in the palace dungeons until her trial, and she's basically given up on everything because Sam is dead and she's broken. And then she goes to her trial, and she is obviously the most notorious assassin, and so the king is actually there in person, and she asks for a quick death, but obviously he's not going to do that, and instead he sentences her to a lifetime in Endover, the salt mines, to serve as a slave. So how does it end? Selena is in the prison wagon all the way to Endover, and she's given up on her life, but then she sees a white stag. When Ardalan invaded Terrason, because she's the queen of Terrason. Oh, I just ruined it. I'm so sorry anyway, I'm so sorry, whatever. All white stags were killed because they are a magic and a symbol of Terrason, and they also guide the people of Terrason back home. That's when Selena finds hope, and she's like, I'm gonna sort this out because my name is Selena Sardathinian and I will not be afraid. Even though I would like to point out that her name is not actually Selena Sardathinian, and everything is getting really, really